So this video is on another compositional technique in photography called leading lines. So let's jump right in. So the goal of this video is to define the compositional technique known as leading lines, identify different elements in a photograph that can be used to create leading lines, and then finally demonstrate how to use leading lines to create beautiful three-dimensional images. All right, so what exactly are leading lines in a photograph? Simply put, leading lines are lines that lead the viewer's eye from one part of a composition to another. Usually, these lines start at the bottom of the frame and guide the eye upward from the foreground of the image to the background of the image. When used as a compositional technique, leading lines generally move toward the main subject of a photo. For instance, a river might lead the eye toward a fog-covered mountain in the background, or a spiral stairway drawing the viewer's attention toward a moving cyclist, as seen in this really nice photograph. Really, how can we use leading lines in our photos? Where are they? Well, the first step is we have to find leading lines. No matter where you live or where you're taking your photos, leading lines are actually all around you. The key really is to find them and incorporate them creatively into your own compositions. So really, where should you specifically be looking for leading lines? Personally, I think the best place to start with really is a path. Paths are inherently leading because they go somewhere. Plus, you can find paths all over the place in forests, at parks, in the city, in the countryside. Even roads count as paths. But that's not all. Let's identify other elements in our photographic surroundings that can be used to create leading lines. How about patterns in the sand, fallen logs, bunches of flowers, interesting rocks, bridges, fences, really anything? And here are some things to consider. Let's brainstorm some human made leading lines, such as roads, fences, boardwalks, bridges, bricks, really anything in a row like lampposts, buildings. Let me close this out here. Click. Doorways, and even window panes. Now let's take a look at some leading lines that exist naturally in our environment, such as rivers, shorelines, waves, sand dunes, trees and branches, tall grass, cliffs, rocks, and even sun rays. Of course, this list is by no means exhaustive. There are always more leading lines out there to be found. Okay, so now that we've identified elements that we can use as leading lines, step 2 is to really figure out how to effectively use them. This should be a very deliberate process and a very thoughtful process. Very deliberate and very thoughtful. First, you want to ask yourself, where do I want, really ask yourself, where, like this guy, where do I want this leading line to take the viewer? He's really thinking pretty hard here. And oftentimes the answer will involve kind of an interesting feature in the background, such as a sunset. So really, you're going to actually have to adjust your camera settings, not your settings, excuse me. You're going to have to adjust your camera position so that the leading lines point roughly in the right direction. For the most part, your leading lines should take the viewer to your main subject. Next, don't be afraid to incorporate multiple leading lines, all guiding the viewer toward your main subject. Your composition will actually be insanely strong if you use multiple leading lines, when possible, of course. And finally, whenever possible, try to find leading lines that can act alone as an interesting foreground subject, such as the beautifully detailed rock path, the staircase, the train track, and this escalator view. Really, these leading lines can act alone as very interesting foreground subjects. In conclusion, leading lines are the key compositional elements that carry our eye through a photograph. Leading lines are both man-made, and natural elements around us that are readily available to us and our surroundings that we can use to bring attention to our main subjects. So start thinking about leading lines wherever you go and practice finding leading lines in the chaos of everyday life. If you do this, your compositions will get very good very fast. Thank you and good luck.